The lights dim, the crowd roars, and every eye in the arena focuses on the man in the green and gold sweater. Mike Modano, America's hockey hero, the superstar who carried the game on his shoulders for decades. But today, at 55 years old, the truth about how his career ended feels more like tragedy than triumph. He was the face of U.S. hockey, the first overall pick, the guy who made fans believe the Stars could actually shine in Dallas. And yet, when you peel back the layers of highlight reels and record books, you find a story of wasted years, missed opportunities, and a legacy that never reached the height it should have. Please like, share, and subscribe for more NHL content. I still remember being in the press box the night Modano broke the record for most goals by an American-born player. The place shook, fans screamed his name, and you could feel the pride of an entire country swelling inside that arena. And yet, even in that moment of glory, there was an emptiness, because the story of Mike Modano was always about what could have been. This was a player with everything: speed, skill, leadership, and the charisma to carry hockey in markets where the game barely existed. He was the golden boy, the one who was supposed to dominate for decades. And while he had moments of greatness, the cracks in the story were always there. Year after year, the Stars struggled to surround him with consistent talent. One cup in 1999, that's all he had to show for his brilliance. One single championship for a player who could have had 5. And when you think about the names he played against, the dynasties he faced, you realize his career was swallowed up by the circumstances around him. I've spoken to fans in both Minnesota and Dallas, and they'll tell you the same thing. Pride, yes. Respect, absolutely. But also frustration. Because Modano wasn't just a star, he was a comet, and somehow the league let that comet burn out too quickly. He gave his body to the game. Shift after shift, hit after hit, he carried a franchise. Yet when it came time for the Stars to return the favor, to build a team around him, they fell short. And that's the untold story, the waste of a generational talent. Being in the arena during those playoff collapses, you could feel the tension. Modano would skate faster, dig deeper, try to will his team forward. But one man can't win alone. And that truth haunted his career more than any injury or lost step. Then came the ending. The unceremonious departure from Dallas, the final games in a Detroit Red Wings uniform, the benching that left fans furious. Imagine that, the greatest American scorer of all time, sitting on the sidelines in his last moments. That's not just sad, it's a disgrace. I was in Detroit for his final game. The crowd gave him love, yes, but it didn't feel right. Modano wasn't supposed to end his career as a role player, barely noticed, struggling for ice time. He deserved better. He deserved the farewell of a king. And fans felt it too. You could hear the whispers in the stands, the conversations in bars. How could this be happening? How could Mike Modano go out like this? The heartbreak was palpable. What makes this worse is the what-ifs. What if the Stars had built better teams around him? What if his final years were spent lifting Dallas instead of drifting in Detroit? What if the NHL had celebrated him the way they celebrated Canadian legends? Because make no mistake, Modano wasn't just a star for Dallas, he was a star for America. He made hockey cool in places it had never been. He inspired kids in Texas, in Arizona, in California, to pick up a stick and dream. That's his true legacy. And yet, even that legacy feels underappreciated. He should be mentioned in the same breath as Messier, Yzerman, Sakic. But too often, he's remembered as that great American player, instead of one of hockey's immortals. And that's a waste. I've seen his jersey in the rafters. I've heard the ovations, the tributes, the praise. But there's always that undertone, that reminder of how much more there should have been. Because Modano had everything, and somehow it wasn't enough. At 55, he carries himself with dignity. He smiles, he shares stories, he gives back to the game. But you can see it in his eyes when he talks about those final years. There's regret. There's pain. And there's the knowledge that the game didn't give back what he put in. Fans will never forget the night he hoisted the cup in '99, the tears in his eyes, the pride in his voice. But one night isn't enough for a player like Modano. He should have had more. He should have had dynasties, rivalries, and unforgettable battles on the biggest stages. And so, his story becomes one of contradiction. A legend, yes. A trailblazer, absolutely. But also a symbol of how the NHL can waste even its brightest stars if the pieces don't fall into place. That's the heartbreak of Mike Modano. Not that he failed, because he didn't. But that the league and the stars failed him. That they let a once-in-a-generation player fade instead of thrive. And yet, despite it all, fans still chant his name. Kids still wear his jersey. His highlight reels still give chills. Because no matter how wasted his potential might feel, his brilliance is undeniable. I was there when fans gave him his final ovation in Dallas. The building shook, the love poured out, and for one last time, Modano looked like the king he always should have been. That moment, brief as it was, reminded us of the greatness we had witnessed. And maybe that's the lesson. Modano's career wasn't destroyed, it was complicated. Wasted in parts, glorious in others. A story of brilliance and heartbreak that fans will debate for generations. At 55, Mike Modano remains a legend. Not because of what he didn't achieve, but because of what he gave to the game. The records, the inspiration, the speed, the swagger. He may not have gotten the ending he deserved, but his story still burns brightly in hockey history. Because legends don't fade. They live forever in the memories of fans. And Mike Modano, wasted or not, will always be remembered as the man who brought American hockey to life.